Want to know if your win total future is going to go bust in week one of college football? Well, I'll have that answer for you here as the toughest week one matchup on the college football slate puts the number 5 LSU Tigers against the number 8 Florida State Seminoles. With both these teams having win totals at 9.5 or 10, the loser of this game may be in real jeopardy of being able to go over that total given the rest of their respective schedules. So, who has the edge here? I'll have that info for you as well and how I'm betting the game in just a few moments. As always, if you're enjoying the content, do us a favor, hit that like button. And if you want to be alerted of any of our betting content, go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel as we will be releasing betting picks and predictions for every sport you can think of every day. Looking at the Wager Talk Live odds screen, we see that LSU is a 2.5-point favorite with a total sitting around 58 or 58.5. Now, there are some twos popping up right now, so some money is coming in on FSU. The line opened at 3 and was pretty quickly bought down to 2.5. The total opened as low as 53.5 at some shops, and it's been nonstop money to the over coming in. I'm sure we'll see some more movement before kickoff on Sunday night, so it's something to monitor. So let's dive into the matchup here, which for me is about two things: the quarterbacks and the defenses. Let's start with the quarterbacks. LSU quarterback Jaden Daniels is expected to do big things, and he profiles a little bit like Anthony Richardson of Florida last year. But the numbers say that he's a better passer, as he completed 69% of his passes last season. However, he only threw 17 touchdown passes, which was the fourth fewest of SEC starting quarterbacks. He only threw 3 picks last year, so that was good for him. Daniels only had 2 games last season where he threw for more than 300 yards. He also had 2 games where he didn't even throw for 100 yards and managed to win them both by a combined 7 points, but both of those were SEC road games. Last season, when Daniels rushed for at least 90 yards or more in a game, LSU went 4-1 straight up. The one loss was to FSU in the opener. Now, what stands out about Daniels to me is looking at the top 3 defenses he faced last year, he wasn't very good. Daniels had to step up in class. He didn't perform well. In the SEC championship game against UGA, he only threw for 208 yards with 1 touchdown and 1 pick. The previous week against Texas A&M, he only threw for $189 and 0 TDs, but he did rush for 84. And back to the season opener last year against FSU, he threw for 209 with 2 touchdowns and rushed for 114. Now, FSU's defense last season was the top 25 unit in the country by several metrics, including scoring defense, yards per game, and completion percentage allowed. They were top 10 in passing yards allowed last season. They're returning 9 starters on the defensive side of the ball, and they have an elite secondary. If Daniels is going to have success, he's going to have to do it with his legs and create plays that aren't scripted. How much do you trust FSU to limit that? Well, Mike Norvell, head coach of FSU, should have plenty of experience against mobile quarterbacks of this type because of the one that's on his team in Jordan Travis. We'll get to him more in a moment. But I think FSU's defensive unit is one of the best in the country, and their defensive line is loaded. Is it comparable to an SEC defense like UGA or Texas A&M? I'd argue it's probably closer than you think. And LSU doesn't have much of a run game at this point and take some pressure off Daniels, but still I'll trust FSU's defense to put the clamps there in the run game as well. Now let's flip the script to Jordan Travis and the Seminoles offense. Travis is getting some early Heisman consideration, which I think is warranted. He's a highly explosive player with both his arm and his legs. Last season, the Seminoles already had a game in hand before they played LSU in week 1. Travis went 20 of 33 for 260 yards and a pair of TDs in that game. Now, one person who didn't play in that week 1 matchup last year that'll play on Sunday is 6'7" wide receiver Johnny Wilson. Wilson's going to be a favorite target of Travis and a handful to cover in the LSU defensive secondary. Wilson had 202 receiving yards in the Cheez-It Bowl last year against Oklahoma. One of the biggest advantages that Travis and company have is the fact that LSU standout defensive tackle Mason Smith will not be playing in this game due to suspension. That's not only going to affect the pass rush, but should open up some holes for running back Trey Benson, who averaged 6.5 yards per carry last season. Now, how much of an advantage is that for FSU? I think it's significant enough to change the outcome of the game. LSU has lost their last 3 openers since winning the national title, and the public is buying the hype of this team. It's interesting to note that since the line opened in June, when it was bought down to 2.5, there's been pretty consistent money coming in on LSU with no line movement back to 3. As I said, now we're starting to see 2s pop up, which signals some money coming in on Florida State, and I'm going to follow that here. Well, I think the point spread ultimately won't come down to what matters in the game, won't factor in. I'm still going to take the points with FSU. If you're interested in more trends, game breakdowns, and picks, go ahead and check out this next game video.